Wildcast podcast coming your way on Apple, Spotify, and Tucson.com. I'm Justin Spears here with Michael Lev and Bruce Pascoe. We're going to be talking a lot of Arizona Wildcats basketball. We'll also get into the NBA draft as well later on in the podcast. And then we've got our summer series starting up in the Mount Rushmore of Juve sports. So we'll get into that later on in the episode. A huge thank you to our great sponsors of the Wildcast podcast, Pima Federal Credit Union. Whether you're saving for your first car, buying a home, or growing your business, Pima Federal puts your goals first. They offer personalized solutions, competitive rates, and expert guidance every step of the way, because at Pima Federal, banking isn't just about money, it's about the customer, meaning you. Learn more at pimafederal.org. Good to see y'all guys.
New layout. If you happen to be watching the video version, we're trying a new layout today.
Yeah,
a more vertical type of look here. So
like
let us
PTI.
know what you think. And maybe more professional, maybe less. I don't know.
Yeah, I like it.
Content will remain just as strong as ever.
Absolutely.
So,
I like this layout. It's cool.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking Arizona basketball, guys. We've got the NBA draft coming up here as well. But, man, it's been a very busy offseason for Arizona basketball. Bruce, you were just up in Phoenix at Section 7 watching some high-level prospects. What were your overall takeaways of the event and some potential guys that Arizona could be getting to join their program?
Well, I mean, it's always fun because you can actually talk to guys as they come off the court, and they don't have to sit them down at a press conference table and all that. So you get to know them a little bit, and a couple of them, Aiden Diggs and Darius Wabington, who were big in-state prospects. I saw several of their games and talked to them a couple times each, and just get a better feel for what they're like. And with Diggs, he's an interesting story because he's reclassifying. He's skipping his junior year so he can play college basketball in 27-28. So I talked to him a little about that and, just stuff like that. And then there's always, I think with the games go like 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. And there's literally almost always somebody at one of the games that could be of interest for U of A. And then, then there's obviously a lot of coaches around bumping into some of them. And, I ran into AJ Bramlett, former Wildcat, just out of the blue, saw him and said hello, started chatting. And it turns out his son was playing for a New Mexico team. And then I wrote a little about that. So just, you never know. It's always a lot of fun. But
how long were you in Mesa, Bruce?
2 days, Friday and Saturday. There's games Sunday too, but I had other stuff to come back to, and I didn't want to spend too much money basically.
And how many stories did you get out of that?
I think at least 5 or 6. Amazing. And then videos,
incredible. Yeah. See, this is why Bruce Pascoe is the man.
Well,
why he's the best. 2 days in Mesa, he gets 5 legit stories.
At least, yeah.
About U of A basketball.
There was 2 seen and heards and a couple of features, and then Tommy Lloyd talked to me a little bit, so I did one on that. But it's all day. Like it actually is. It's more intense in a way that like regular season trips. You'll go to like whatever TCU or whatever, and you're sitting around Fort Worth. I went to watch the Longhorn Bulls or whatever, because you have that day off basically until a couple hours before the game. This is not that. I literally got there at 8:30 in the morning to watch Wabington play on Saturday and didn't leave till I think almost 8 o'clock that night, and then drove back here. So it was a 12-hour day plus the drive, and it's fully intense, but you get a lot out of it. And it's also good, like it helps down the road, even seeing guys who may go elsewhere, but then you're like, oh yeah, I saw him and this is what he said, or this is what he looked like, or whatever. So that it's really valuable that way, but it's completely different than anything else, and it's really intense. Yeah, it's probably one of the more intense things that we do all year.
You got some incredible intel from Tommy Lloyd, in my opinion, regarding the roadblocks, for lack of a better word, that he and other coaches are facing when it comes to figuring out who is actually eligible to play college basketball anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Because it seemed like the door was wide open for quote unquote pros to come over from Europe and play, right? Ivan Karchenkov probably fits into that category, correct?
Yeah.
Now there's a lot of uncertainty as to whether someone who fits that profile would be eligible to play. And Tommy Lloyd himself said, I don't know. Like he's trying to find a 13th man who could be a really important player for his team here in mid-June.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, this could be resolved, who knows, as we speak. I don't know. But yeah, the latest is they're still bouncing around the possibility that I think because there have been so many sort of older, early 20s European pros coming over, there's been a lot of pushback that this isn't the spirit of college basketball or whatever. And so there are some talk that they may go back or try to go back to this old guideline of you can only come to the NCAA if you've only signed a contract. If you sign a contract, but only if you receive necessary living expenses or reasonable living or something like that. And that just seems like they're trying to put, it's the old toothpaste back in the tube kind of deal. Can they do it? It doesn't seem likely, but I think the coaches have to be aware of that. And that is the rule that basically stopped Kirk Creasy. He had to sit out 17 games as a freshman in the COVID year here because he had taken, he literally got like a cup of coffee to play for Zalgiris, and they gave him, I don't even think it was six figures. It was a small contract, and the NCAA still set him out 17 games. I mean, that's kind of the direction they're trying to go back. Whereas with Karchenkov was a pro, had a 3-year deal playing for Butte Bayern, one of the most well-financed clubs in Europe, much less Germany. And they had to buy him out and, pay him to come to Arizona. And that was all legit as of last year. Now, maybe not. They're not going to be retroactive, so he'll still get to play for Arizona. But it could mean that they might not be able to add a guy like Karchenkov in the future. That's their worry.
But meanwhile, Amari Bailey, who actually played NBA minutes, gets to come back and play college basketball.
They're trying to draw the line somewhere. I mean, the line has been basically if you haven't played in the NBA. So that is interesting where that's gone, because then before it was like if you signed it, you couldn't sign an NBA contract. But then they had what was it? And then the James Nagy, and they had Bediako, the whole deal and he had a judge approve it, and then 5 games later somebody else denied it. I mean, just nobody knows where this is going to end, and it's driving the coaches up the wall. And you guys know Tommy Lloyd, he's not one to complain about stuff that much unless it's something that really bugs him, and you can tell this really bugs him, and he's really frustrated because they don't feel like they can move forward right now.
Yeah, and this has always been, of course, a super important pipeline of talent for Tommy Lloyd, right? Like he loves to go the international route and bring those players over. So he's going to be impacted by this as much as any coach in the country if things don't go the way he wants, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe more than ever, he had been talking about kind of a 50-50 mix, but it could go almost 60-40 internationals or whatever, because you're seeing what's happening in the portal. I mean, if that keeps up, they were looking at Momcilovic at Iowa State, and it was pretty clear they weren't going to be able to pay him what his people wanted, and then so it's much more likely they can go to Europe, identify somebody, and maybe give them $1 million or $2 million or whatever, as opposed to paying $6 million for some guy out of the portal like that, which just is not possible, at least as of right now in Arizona. And then obviously he has the connections internationally. He is he has a way to relate to the international players. And then I think culturally, international players are a little less likely to bounce around. They grow up playing for one club and their national team their whole lives. So they don't grow up playing for EYBL and switching clubs at the end of the month or switching over to Adidas or whatever. They don't think that way. That's why you're seeing, Krivas, playing here as long as he has, and Azulis Tubelis, playing here 3 years. Those guys don't, they're not as likely to leave. They certainly can and do, but it's not to the level sometimes of, you have a better chance of keeping a guy and selling him on a 2-year plan, maybe a 3-year plan. I think that's what he's been trying to do.
According to my calculations, Arizona has 12 players on its roster. That includes this guy, Maxime Brnovich. Do I have that right?
Brnovich.
Yeah, one of the problems with Tommy Lloyd's recruiting tactics is he brings in a lot of players that whose names are difficult to spell and pronounce for us ugly Americans.
It's going to be an all-time high this season coming up.
Yes. I'm just already the kid they got from Central Michigan, right? I'm just going to call him Oogie.
Yeah,
just that's
the thing.
That over with.
Sevovich.
We're just going with Oogie.
Oogie and Indy.
Endurance.
Yes.
Are we going with endurance or something
Endurance.
shorter?
They call him Endy, I believe.
Andy. All right.
I am Menkwe.
Your
Endurance.
guess is
I
good
am
as
Menkwe.
Dang, Justin.
Yeah.
I'm impressed, Justin.
Yeah. It's the
Well,
the
you're a
Polynesian
radio guy. You probably already had to check that out. Yeah.
Well, having Polynesian names on the Arizona football roster
Mm.
kind of trained me over the years to get down pronunciation.
Well,
So the other thing that was in your story, Bruce, that alarmed me was they said that Oogie wasn't fully cleared yet.
Well, I think he's been cleared to do some stuff, but Lloyd said that he's not. He didn't think he was fully, but he could be this week. I mean, he was pretty
Okay,
close.
it wasn't those things.
But you know how it is. It's like levels where they clear him to like do everything except full 5-on-5 contact or whatever. I think that's what he was indicating. So that could be soon, and it's just with him though. It's going to be, even if he gets cleared and gets through the summer, maybe plays well in Lithuania, it's still going to be kind of a waiting situation to see does he have any setbacks, because he went through this at Nebraska where he was progressing, came back, played one game, and I saw his comments, and Hoiberg's comments after the game sounded pretty good, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's out the rest of the year. So he must have woke up and not felt so great. And could that happen again? I don't know. But
this was a back injury.
Yeah, some kind of back injury. Yeah. There's not been too much specifics I've seen of there, and that's obviously not unusual for big guys. Backs and feet are pretty common, but backs can really be, they can really flare up and be unpredictable, and that seems like what's happened.
So as far as the starting lineup, I mean, we can guarantee Mo Krivas is that guy. You're going to have Ivan Karchenkov also right there as well. Caleb Holt, I think, is another starter. Now, who is the starting point guard and the starting power forward? Two very important positions in Tommy Lloyd's system.
Yeah. Well, I think as of right now, I mean, they'll have a chance to prove it, but I think right now the point guard's Derek Dixon, but JJ Maniquit's going to play a lot, and he's going to be I think Dixon will kind of be that starter, but he'll move over and play, when Colt's on the bench, he's going to play a lot of two. Maybe if they go small, he's going to play two, and then Maniquit's going to play. I mean, I could see Maniquit averaging 24, 25 minutes a game. He just might not start. So, but he's going to be a big part of it. So that's not as big a deal. At least
Maniquit, he played for Tommy, right? With Team USA. He played well.
Yeah. And his deal is, one of the reason he's, at least, from what I've seen and heard of him, one reason he's been with all these USA teams is because he's a really good glue guy. He really good players like playing with him. He's really good at setting them up. He's better. He makes other players better. He may not be individually, he might not be the guy who you're just like, wow, he's, this incredible scorer or whatever, but he gets to the right spots. He's really smart and, selfless kind of guy. I think, he's going to fit in good in the system. So they liked him out of high school a little bit. He was a second tier target out of high school. And then I think, when he played for Lloyd, especially last summer, I think that, he was already going to Washington at that point, but I think that he obviously saw what he could do in that role, playing on that USA team where you've got basically 10, 11 guys that are all star players that the point guard setting up. And so it was a pretty good showcase for him and a chance to see what he could do in Lloyd's system, which was pretty similar. What he ran for USA is what he does for U of A. So yeah, he'll be a key point. And then I think the big question that everyone is asking is what is up with power forward? Because we're talking earlier about it's possible that Tommy Lloyd might add a guy who could be the starter power forward that we don't even know yet. And I think those are some of the possibilities they're looking at. If they had to, they could go with what they had now. They might just have to play Karchenkov at the 4 and kind of go smaller. And Karchenkov did play there at times this year, and he's perfectly capable of it. He's like a pretty versatile guy, as we've all seen. And then, and then the X factor is going to be like a guy like Evan Otten, the transfer from Idaho State. Can he help him, for 8 to 10 minutes a game as a shot blocker, rim protector guy? I don't know. He's pretty raw, but he's got a lot of upside too. And then Oogie, as they say, Jerovicic, I think the transfer. Yeah, I'm still working on it, but he's a guy. If he is healthy and there's no problems, he's definitely good enough to be a backup at least, and provide him a lot there. But that's a big, I don't think anybody's counting on that because they don't know what they're going to get out of him, which is why I think they need one more. And then the other kid, Andy, as they call from Netherlands, he's more of a longer term guy that maybe like on that CD Gay, Emmanuel Steffen kind of role is what I kind of see him as right now.
So I don't want to go.
I'm sorry, the other guy, Brinovich, obviously, assuming he's added, and it sounds pretty good for them, they're going to get him. But he's more of a point forward kind of guy. At least has the potential to be that way. So I don't know if he's certainly not your Koa Peat power forward, but he might be able to help him there, in a different way. Quick
tangent. Do you use Microsoft Word when you write, Bruce?
I do, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if you do this or not, but like when there's a weird spelling or tough spelling, add it to the dictionary, right? That way, if you spell it wrong in the future, the little squiggly line will show up underneath.
Yeah, I mean, that's right? One reason I use it, but I always thought it learns those or something like that. I never actually knew there was a function where you could add it, but yeah.
No, you can. Yeah, you just scroll over it and then you right click or I don't know if it's different with the Mac, but yeah, add to dictionary. Do you ever do that, Justin? Well, no, you don't write in Word.
I'm a psycho according to you.
You can actually add to dictionary in CMS also.
Okay.
So you can, it's sort of a self spell check situation. But so do we think, Bruce, that Koa's replacement is on the roster currently? Do we think it's someone to be signed still? Or do you think it's kind of like multiple people and it's just going to be this kind of mix and match situation?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like, and they're being pretty quiet about this. Everybody is, I think, out there. But I think it's probably somebody to be named still. And here we are in mid-June. That seems crazy, but that's when you're getting international guys. Sometimes that's what happens. I mean, Karchenkov, we kind of knew about in late May, early June, but he didn't actually officially sign and be announced until July. It was like early July or something. So it still could be to name, but I'm just saying, if needed, they have enough to piece together still a very good team. It's especially if everyone can stay healthy.
All right, so I mean, realistically though, I mean, Arizona had an 8-man rotation, so I mean, there's still a lot to be seen with these guys. I mean, there's still a lot of unknowns. Is it going to be 8-man again, or is it going to be 9 players, 10 guys? How many guys do you think they can realistically rotate? And we didn't even mention, I mean, is Bryce James going to be a thing next year?
I don't think he'll make the rotation, but I think he might get some spot minutes though. Yeah. From what I've heard, I don't think he's good enough to make that top 8 yet. No.
Okay.
But he did improve. I mean, it's hard for me to say because I don't get to go to practices. I don't know, but I've heard that he did actually make some improvement in practices. He's a good guy. Everybody likes him, all that. But I don't think he's made enough of a jump to get in this particular rotation. Maybe that said, if they have foul trouble, injuries, etc., for sure, that could happen. He could be that maybe, he's not a point guard, but maybe that Evan Nelson type of role where you're playing just spot minutes and maybe filling in at time.
Did Momcilovic officially sign with somebody?
Yeah, did he sign with Kentucky? Mark Pope?
Yeah. Kentucky.
Okay. And Kentucky needed that. Man, they've had a pretty bad summer. They've been whiffing on some guys. So,
what is that whole situation with how like massive the number was in Arizona? Just kind of, I don't know, kind of falling by the wayside because they weren't willing to go there. What do you think that says about either the state of Arizona men's basketball or the sport overall, if anything?
I've never gotten a direct answer on this behind the scenes or anything, but I don't think he was really ever much of a factor. I think that I think his agents maybe floated Arizona out there and made more of it than it was. I could be completely wrong though. I don't know. I don't have really strong information on that, but it just seemed odd to me that a guy that's worth 6 to 7 would come to Arizona because Arizona's doesn't have that kind of I don't think they have the kind of NIL and rev share budget right now, it was around 10 or something last year. Maybe it's more this year, but to pay one guy that much. And then if you did that, you'd have to get Krivas and you'd have to get Karchenkov probably the same amount, because that would cause a big problem if you brought in a guy like that. And Lloyd has shown he's all about wanting to retain guys and get them more if they stick around and develop under his program. That's what he's done with those two guys. So I just thought it just seemed like a weird fit so I don't know. I didn't think there was much to it. I thought it was much more likely that they would go international to get another piece.
Wouldn't they have given that amount or thereabouts to Koa Peat if he decided to come back?
I heard it was less. I think they were willing to kind of sort of match, so to speak, what he would get in the NBA, and maybe a little bit more. Maybe 3 or something, or maybe 3.5, something like that. But Pete's probably going to get 2.5 to 3 in the NBA, assuming he goes in the mid 20s, which is what it sounds like now. So, but I don't think they were going to give him like 7. But I know that Pete's people were asking for that. In fact, I got one of the NBA scouts asked me during the combine. He's like, "Hey, I heard Koa's bag is up to 6 now." I'm like, "Really?" So I don't know if that's really, or was that just the agent was throwing it out there, and then that I'd heard, and this is who knows, but that the agents or whoever, somebody around him was throwing the number out, maybe to make his decision easier. Like, hey, if this bag was 6, then of course he goes back to college. But I think it was closer call than that. And as Tommy Lloyd said, the appeal, even today, the appeal of being in the NBA is really strong for some of these guys. And I think it sounds like that was the deal for Pete at the end of the day. Is he'd always had this mentality. He was going to be one and done. He wanted to be in the league. He's from a family of collegians and pros, and that was his mentality, and so he was going to go.
So I threw out this comp for Koa a few months ago that everyone hated. It was Draymond Green. People were just like, he's not like Draymond at all, and I was like, well, kind of could sort of be a small ball point center, good defensive instincts, good passer, see the game. Maybe he's not quite as intense of a defender as Draymond. But then I was doing some research last night, and I saw a comp that I liked even better. It was Tobias Harris.
Yeah. He also kind of looks like Tobias Harris, too.
Doesn't he? Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like Tobias is a bit of a tweener between a small forward and a power forward. He's kind of thickly built. It's not like incredibly impressive in any aspect, but a winning basketball player, right?
Decent 3-point shooter.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
That's the element.
Threes, mid-range game. It's just the shooting like that. When you coming off of the combine, you were there, Bruce. That was not great for Koa. And he's apparently trying to rework his shot, which was kind of problematic, a little slow and mechanical. I thought he made progress at the foul line in that regard toward the end of the season. Shot better, shot differently. Yeah. So if you draft him, you're really drafting more the character, the intangibles, the body type, right? The winning pedigree, and hoping that he can develop a shot over the course of time.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, they always say that the shot is kind of the one thing that they're probably the least worried about. If you're athletic and smart and you have instincts and he's really good at getting to the right spots and he's super efficient in some ways, and so I think that's the thing with him, is that you figure you take him and you work on his shot as it goes. And I think, Justin, I don't know if we talked about it before once, but I mean, there's actually a comp of Aaron Gordon possibly, I think, and you could make the case. I mean, Aaron Gordon's probably even more athletic and crazy freaky athletic, but they're kind of similar coming out of Arizona after 1 year in that sense, and neither one of them great shooter. So I kind of thought that too. And so, I think in the late first round, why not take a guy like Koa Peat, and maybe he could be an all-star, or he could be a solid guy that might play a dozen years, maybe longer. But he's probably going to make your team and contribute.
And this is, I mean, I made the comparison to Aaron Gordon. It's just the difference is Aaron Gordon was so freaky athletic and was just known as arguably the best defender in that draft. And that's why he was the top 5. He went top 5, right? And we're with Koa, we're thinking about him more in the 20s. But Aaron Gordon went to the Orlando Magic, where he got to shine as a young player. but he didn't really develop that 3-point shot until he got to Denver. And then you started to see him embrace his role part as the Robin to Nikola Jokic's Batman. And even Jamal Murray's the face of the Denver Nuggets more than Aaron Gordon. But his skill set was so perfect for Nikola Jokic. And that's why they've been one of the top teams in the Western Conference. And so with Koa, I think if he can find the right fit, if he can find the right team, which he could because he's going to be in that late first round, there's a good chance that Koa is playing for the Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. Could they package Koa in for a trade to get Giannis Antetokounmpo? I don't know.
Right.
But I think regardless, Koa, if he goes to a place like Boston or if he goes to a team that's winning and they're ready to win now, I think Koa could easily carve out a role.
I looked at 3 mock drafts last night. The Athletic, Sam Vecini, ESPN, Jeremy Wu, and Yahoo, Kevin O'Connor. They had Koa. One had Koa going 22nd to Philadelphia. One had him going 26th to Denver, which I thought was weird because is he redundant with Aaron Gordon at all? Aaron Gordon is still on that team. The other one was 24th to the newly crowned NBA champion New York Knicks. So that seems like it's kind of the range, somewhere in the mid-20s for him. And the upside of that is you go to a better franchise, right? A team that's usually enjoyed some success recently when you go in the bottom part of the first round as opposed to the top.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if that's what he's thinking. Both of you guys touch on that. It's true that's the kind of thing he may have been thinking about, and he hasn't said that or given any indication, but I'm sure that he's aware that that's probably likely that he would go into a good team and play a role and develop under, theoretically a better system. And, and then there's the other thing too. There is a lot of thought, well, if he came back, he'd be a lottery pick or whatever, because it's weaker next year, but it's also possible you come back if his shot doesn't get any better, he's a year older and they always discount you if you're a year, by the older you get. So, maybe he's making a good decision. Well, it's really interesting. Even Tommy Lloyd said, you got to wait 3 or 4 years and then look back and see, was it a good decision or not? Who knows? Maybe it was.
Yeah.
Those same mock drafts, each one of them had Braden Burries going 9th to Dallas.
Yeah.
All 3 of them. What do you think of that fit, Justin,
Perfect.
if that ends up happening?
Yeah,
Perfect?
I think that's Justin's question because
absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Because Klay Thompson's aging, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Kyrie Irving coming back from injury. You need some extra scoring punch in the backcourt. And so I think him as a 2 guard is perfect for Dallas. And then you've got a up and coming superstar, the guy who was number 1 pick last year in Cooper Flagg. They've got a good nucleus of guys. And then, so I think adding Braden Burries would be just absolutely perfect for Dallas. And I think you've made this comparison, Lev. He's kind of got some Devin Booker-esque traits.
Mm-hmm.
And so pairing that with the other pieces that they have there, I would love to see him go 9 to Dallas.
Yeah, and the kicker on that is that Mike Schmitz is now the GM at Dallas.
Oh, former Wildcat.
U of A.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
But no, that's interesting. A lot of people make it because the one thing that struck me is there's so many guards in that lottery this year, and they're all just slightly different. So yes, it does seem like what his skill set fits the Mavericks, but do we know that? Do the Mavericks maybe, sometimes there's blowing smoke out there. Maybe they really like some other kind of guard out there that might be available. Yeah. I don't know, but it does.
Best I can tell, once you get to pick number 5, it could kind of go in any number of directions. It seems like the top 4 are more or less locked in, although we don't necessarily know who's going to go first. I would take AJ DeBonsa first. Other people might take Darren Peterson. Some people might take Cameron Boozer, number 1. What's his face? Caleb Wilson from North Carolina. Most people have him going 4th to the Bulls. And then from there is this big clump of guards, many of which, college basketball fans are very familiar. Kingston Flemings, Wagler from Illinois is in there. Acuff, whom we saw from Arkansas. They're all kind of, and Burries, they're all kind of lumped together. Yeah. So it might be a matter of just kind of what your taste is.
Right.
Yeah. But I will say this, I think Burries is in the sweet spot because we all know he's going to go the lottery, but he's going to go maybe top 10, like as high as 9 to Dallas. You got Milwaukee at 10, but then you got Golden State at 11, Oklahoma City at 12, and the Miami Heat at 13. Those are some pretty good franchises to go to if you're Braden Burries, and I think he is right there in that mix for all those teams.
That would be great for him. Now, in the second round, those 3 mock drafts had Jaden Bradley. One of them had him going 45th, one had him 46th, one had him 47th. So that seems like the range for Jaden, consensus range. 47th pick is Phoenix.
I was going to say,
obviously would be cool. You like that idea, Justin?
Yeah, because he worked out for them recently.
Okay.
And I think, they need a point guard, and he is a guy who's in his early 20s, seasoned veteran point guard. He'd be perfect for Phoenix.
Right.
I am not in any way, shape, or form saying that Jaden Bradley is anything like Jalen Brunson, but I just want to note that Jalen Brunson was a second-round pick when he came out of Villanova. He was the 33rd overall pick, and now he's going to have a statue built outside of Madison Square Garden after leading the Knicks to their first NBA championship in 53 years. So you can find guys in there. I don't think Jaden is that type of scorer, or ever will be. But when you were talking about Mandaquit, Bruce, I thought about Jaden. Like, he's kind of a glue guy, right? Like, your team is better when he's on the court.
Yep.
He just makes he makes a lot of good decisions. He gets everybody involved. He's completely unselfish. Has all the makeup and intangibles that you want to have in your locker room.
Yeah, you think about the NBA and like all the talent that is out there that you can get, but if you really have a really good skill, just one skill, and then experience like he has, that that can be appealing just to fit a spot somewhere. And then of course there's more roster spots in the NBA now. You could definitely see Bradley as a, as they say, a plug and play guy who's ready to go as a backup point guard, maybe even play a little off the ball in the league. I don't know, mostly on, but he's ready, and he played really well in the combine. I don't know how his workouts are going, but I doubt that's hurt him. Probably helped a little bit, and he could really, he could be. He kind of reminds me, even though he's a completely different player, his progression reminds me a little bit of Solomon Hill, who got a little better here every year at Arizona. And everybody was projecting him in the second round, maybe high second round. Then boom, all of a sudden he got picked late in first by Indiana, I believe.
Yep.
Because he was that kind of veteran, likable, good, solid guy that they knew they could depend on. And he had a decent run with them, and just he was that guy. So you never know. Wouldn't surprise me if Bradley sneaks in. Certainly late, high in the second, and get that guaranteed, get some kind of guarantee from that club, or possibly even really late in the first round.
The Athletics mock draft did not have Toby Awaka being selected. ESPN had him going 50th to Toronto, and Yahoo had him going 51st to Washington. So definitely a possibility of 4 players being drafted, which would be notable. Bruce?
Yeah, first time since 2001, if that happens.
That happens.
Wow. 4, plus they had a transfer name.
All right.
Back then.
Put it on you, Justin. Over-under is 3.5.
Ooh, over-under 3.5.
What are you taking?
Man, I will take the over because, like Bruce said, when it comes to like a guy like Solomon Hill, likable guy that understands his role, is a really good person to have on your team. And there's some teams out there that could use Toby Awaka's services. I was thinking about it. I was like, man, after what Victor Wembanyama did to poor Chet Holmgren in that Western Conference Finals, imagine if OKC had a guy like Toby Awaka around to kind of, push around Wemby and rough him up a little bit. So there is a role for Toby Awaka in the NBA. I hope he gets drafted late in the second round. But even if he goes undrafted, for Toby Awaka, it's kind of like, okay, dealer's choice. Maybe if, for Toby Awaka, if it gets like super, super late, you almost would rather to go undrafted, pick your team so you can find your fit, find your role, and then go from there. So I'll say over for now, but I think, if Toby Awaka goes undrafted, that might be a blessing for him.
Yeah, and to Bruce's point earlier too about having at least one skill, he's got the skill of rebounding.
Yeah.
Right, like the best rebounder in college basketball.
You're really good. If you're really good, that can be enough sometimes. And
he's
Lloyd,
a brick wall too. I mean, that dude's so strong.
Yeah. Lloyd. When I asked Lloyd about him on Saturday up at Mesa, he said, and he doesn't usually exaggerate this kind of stuff either. Like he said, he's gotten a lot of good feedback on Waka. A lot of people really like him, so it wouldn't surprise me. I think to Justin's point, when you're talking about somebody in the 50s, that gets to the range where sometimes the agent will say. Sometimes the agent will call teams and say, please don't draft him because we want him to be a free agent and sign with this team. Because they know it's a better chance to make that team and make an impact. So that could happen. I believe that, that's happened a couple of times, I think, with
happened with Trier.
TJ McConnell even. And it's signed with Knicks, McConnell.
Okay, but isn't the draft in New York?
Yeah, in Brooklyn.
And isn't Toby Awaka from New York?
He's from upstate and like Hyde Park. A little bit upstate up the Hudson River.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just thought it would be
2 hours away by train.
You're weighing like how cool would it be to have your name called in your home state during the draft versus getting the best deal. I don't know.
Yeah, and I imagine he'll be there. He won't be invited. The second round guys aren't. But yeah, no.
Just hanging out in the balcony.
Yeah, no, he has a great story. He has just a great story. Just commuting from the Hudson River Valley into the Bronx to go to this school and work his way up and, round out his game. And then he got latched on at Tennessee and, initially wasn't expected to be much and then turned out to be pretty promising there. And they didn't want to lose him. And then Arizona picked him up and, he kept accelerating. So, yeah, a really good story with him.
My favorite story about Toby Awaka is when Tommy Lloyd discovered him when they played against Tennessee and there was a loose ball. And everyone was diving for it, and then all of a sudden, all these bodies hit the floor. And guess who was sitting there holding the basketball? Toby Awaka.
And he was a freshman that year. And it was a tough deal playing. I think he played against Dubelis. I don't know. It was a while ago. Yeah. Yeah.
So speaking of ex-Wildcats, Justin, who goes higher in the draft, Koa Peat or Henry Vesar?
Oh, I saw one that had Henry also as a late first rounder. Man, that size with his skill set, I get why a team would pick Vesar over Koa Peat.
I know, right? Like he's just more of like what the NBA is looking for today, right? Like he can be a rim runner. He can shoot threes. Yeah,
Lauri Markkanen.
Interesting. I would say Henry might. I would take Henry to go higher than Koa, just based on, like I said, what the NBA looks for. Yeah. Doesn't mean that Henry's going to have a better career necessarily, or is a better prospect, but I just feel like they want you got to be able to stretch the floor, right? Got to be able to block shots. Henry can do both of those things. So,
yeah, he had an interesting decision too, because he could come back for one more year. And been that guy, he could have been that guy getting $6-7 million out of the portal, and he's not going to get that much in the NBA. But I think he was ready to go.
Why not come back to Arizona? Man, that would have been perfect. Like, hey, Vesar, you could play the 4.
Yeah,
you could play the 4. Man. We need you.
That would have been some. So they would have had to restructure the payroll again for him.
Have the little towers, man. Would have been awesome.
His end of his career ended pretty badly too. Like they got upset right in the tournament, and he had some misplays toward the end. But I don't know. Sometimes guys are just ready to move on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like we're ready to move on, Justin, to the Mount Rushmore series, summer of 26.
What's
the deal?
It's our project that we launched this week, and every week we're going to have different U of A sports, and it's the Mount Rushmore. So only 4 faces can be included on these, and for some of them it's easy, but for others it's so challenging. So it was challenging for me. We started off with the coaches, and to me there were some layups. Right, the one of the layup. Lute Olson. The other one, Mike Kendrea, the greatest softball coach of all time. And then Jerry Kindle, who won multiple national championships with Arizona baseball. Really did a great job turning around that program. And then, there's, you can make a really strong case for Frank Bush, who was the swimming and diving coach for a long time here at the U of A. I mean, he mentored and coached Olympians, national champions. Frank Bush is an all-timer. But I obviously value football just a little bit more. And when I think about the impact that Dick Tomey has made on the Arizona football program, he is my fourth and final selection for the Mount Rushmore. So you can also make a case for Rick LaRose, who was the men's golf coach as well. I mean, there were some names that I consider, but those were my four. And I'm excited for this series, guys. I got U of A football. I know, Lev, you're doing U of A baseball. Bruce will be doing the basketball program. So nice little fun summer project.
Yeah, I had baseball and softball. And, man, it was so hard to come up with, the fourth person. Because especially with softball. I mean, you could pick 44 players from the Mount Rushmore, right? I mean, there's so many. And I was like, how many pitchers do I want to have? How many hitters do I want to have? You could just go 4 pitchers, right? Because it's so important with softball. So there were a lot of considerations. Mine are coming out in July. I think Bruce is up next with men's basketball this week, and then women's basketball. Just a reminder of your upcoming deadline.
Somewhere in my workload, I got it. Yeah.
Tell us, give us tease us with half of the Mount Rushmore. Who are the two most obvious ones?
The men's pretty. There's no surprises. It's pretty.
Don't give it all away. Just to give us.
Like you said, there's so many great players. So, but if you only have to pick 4, then then you just it's pretty clear. So I don't know. I mean, to me, one of them was Bob Elliott, because he was, of all those great players in the snow near, and there were a lot. You could pick 4 of those, but he was sort of probably the more the one who, I think he's leading and rebounding and things he'd done, but also a foundational player that he and the rest of that program, Snowden, of course, they elevated it to the point where a guy like Lute Olson would even be interested in it. And then Lute took it from there, so I thought you had to take that. And then obviously Sean Elliott. So you have 2 Elliots. That's half of them, I guess you'd say.
Not related.
Elliott, how could you
no
not?
relation. Yep. Other than
that's a no-brainer.
Bob Elliott, I love that choice. And it kind of goes into my line of thinking when I chose the football guys, was just kind of the cultural impact that they've had.
Yeah.
Beyond the field. Bob Elliott was also a broadcaster for a lot of years, right? For those Lute Olson teams.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just think that Bob Elliott's still being around the program after done playing, I thought.
Right. No, he's also a great Tucsonan. I mean, he's been in business here for decades now, right? And done things, and he's contributed in a lot of ways. And then, for a lot of those Lute Olson years, he was the commentator. Him and Dave Sitton were a great team for a number of years, doing all those kind of the local, so to speak, broadcasts on whatever network, which changed.
FSN Arizona, baby.
Yeah, and then was it Prime or something before that, whatever. But yeah, no, he was really, really good at it. And so
my favorite Bob Elliott fact is that he is a voice of a character on NBA Street, the video game.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Very popular EA Sports game. He is the PA announcer.
Wow,
the guy that's running down the court with a megaphone doing that. That's Bob Elliott. So play that game. I logged so many hours, and when he told me that 2 years ago, I was like, oh my gosh, you were a significant part of my childhood.
Yeah. So there's impacts like that, and then there's like you said, there's cultural impacts, and there's and then to your point, if 2 coaches are equal, do you take the football coach because it's football, and that is the most important sport in college sports, right? So over golf or over swimming. But yeah, Bush had unbelievable impact in some of the Olympians he produced and champions he produced. And I even thought for coaches, I think I was trying to argue for Pop McHale. If you're looking at a foundational guy who basically rolled the ball out for everybody at U of A, maybe you pick him. But but not as accomplished as
my only counter to people.
There's so many ways to look at it.
My only counter to people who said Frank Bush instead of Dick Tomey, I'm like, you know what? Keanu Reeves in the movie Speed was not talking about Arizona swimming program. They had a good
Yeah, I
football,
mean,
good
that's what I'm
football team.
saying. That's what I'm saying. It's
It's like impact, right?
Yeah.
That's
yeah. I mean, like you could say Candrea and Lute Olson were on the same level as far as greatness. Maybe even Candrea even better because of multiple national championships. But Lute Olson, when he was in his prime, was basically like the number one person. If you asked anybody outside of the state of Arizona, who do you know from Tucson, it would be Lute. He'd be the number one guy as far as recognition. Maybe, you have Mo Udall and some other people back, but like he was it. So you talk about, so if you have the tie between those two, you'd probably go with Lute. But in your case, fortunately, you don't need to. You can put them both in there. But that is that is important. Like, how do you define it? Rushmore, what does that mean as far as their accomplishments or what they meant to U of A or their legacy or people knowing them around the rest of the country, the attention they brought to the school, etc.
Yeah, so they're gonna run in the Sunday papers and print. They should all be online like the Saturday, the day before. We're gonna do men's basketball, women's basketball, baseball, softball, football, and then I think men's and women's like Olympic sports too, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's the whole series. And our colleague Greg Hansen is going to kind of give his like alternative picks, his second opinion type of selections accompanying each one. Yeah. So tons of cool material for everybody coming up this summer as we, kind of deal with the dog days of not a whole lot going on here. Waiting for the next, athletic season to begin.
You got Big 12 football media days like in?
Oh, it's true.
In a few weeks.
There's no draft.
That's true.
Anymore.
July 7th.
NBA draft goes into football season. There's not a whole lot of drop.
Got World Cup.
But
got good old Brennan Sorsby too. There's no shortage of sports content this summer. All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of the Wildcast podcast. Special thanks to my co-hosts, Michael Lev and Bruce Pascoe. I'm Justin Spears. You can find our work on all things Arizona Wildcats and Southern Arizona sports on Tucson.com and the Wildcaster mobile app. And a huge thank you, as always, to our great sponsor in Pima Federal Credit Union. All right. We'll see you all next time.